On December 2nd, 2022, two hunters are out deer hunting with their dogs in the dense woodland of the Portal Hunting Club in Liberty County, Georgia. After they make a successful kill, their dogs sprint toward the fallen animal to retrieve it. But instead of simply bringing back the kill, they fixate on something else just across the road and refuse to return on command. So one of the hunters goes to investigate what has unsettled them. In a shallow ditch, barely off the path, he notices something that looks like a wild hog at first. But when he looks closer, he realizes to his horror, it's not an animal. It's the naked torso of an adult white female, and she has been dismembered. There is no head and no legs. Both arms are still attached, but one appears nearly severed. The hunters immediately return to the clubhouse and call 911. When Liberty County Sheriff's deputies arrive at the scene, they quickly realize this is far beyond a routine call.
The head was missing. Her legs had also been removed. We could see the femurs in her legs had been cut through and were protruding from the ends of her legs. Her right arm showed some signs of severe injury up around the shoulder area. And just in general, she was laying on her back and was heavily splattered with mud.
What begins here in these woods will take nearly 6 months just to learn the victim's name, and far longer to unravel the elaborate fiction that surrounds her death. But before the fiction, there is a crime scene, and this one was designed to leave nothing behind. Investigators secure the area and begin processing the scene. Near the torso, a large black plastic tote is found overturned on the forest floor. A few feet away, a red-handled Milwaukee utility knife is located.
There was a cleaning wipe wrapped around the handle and partially around the blade itself. And then we noticed that the blade had actually been placed backwards into the sheath. It was not placed as it should have been. That's why the blade didn't seat fully within the sheath.
More than a dozen Clorox disinfectant wipes are scattered throughout the immediate area, hanging from low branches and caught in bush. All items appear to have been wiped down thoroughly, leaving no usable DNA behind. Over the next 5 days, additional remains are discovered across a roughly 3-mile radius within the hunting grounds. A right leg is found by a hunter near a deer food plot approximately 2.5 miles from the torso. Shortly afterward, a left leg is located with the assistance of a cavalier dog. On December 7th, 5 days after the initial discovery, the head is located buried beneath loose, sandy soil, along a logging trail known as Brayson Place. During the expanded search, a second large tote is also collected, this one gray. Like the first, it had been wiped clean with disinfectant. Blood residue is found inside both totes. The deliberate burial of the head, the wide distribution of body parts across miles of woodland, the use of transport containers, and the systematic cleaning of surfaces indicated a calculated effort to delay identification and complicate the investigation. This was not an impulsive act. The choice of location, however, reflects critical misjudgment. The woods were selected under the assumption they were remote and undisturbed. In reality, it was the busiest hunting weekend of the year, and the body was discovered within hours of the first hunt. Whoever left it here underestimated how exposed the location truly was. With the scene processed, the focus shifts to uncovering how and when this horror unfolded. The body is transported to the Coastal Georgia Regional Medical Examiner's Office for an autopsy. The victim has sustained no fewer than 9 traumatic wounds to the skull, along with defensive injuries to the arms and additional wounds to the abdomen.
And in this case, were you able to determine a cause of death?
Yes.
And what was your determination?
Traumatic injuries.
And were you able to determine the manner of death?
Yes.
And what was that?
Homicide.
However, because the neck is never recovered, strangulation or other contributing factors cannot be ruled out. The dismemberment itself provides further details. The legs are not separated at the joints, which would have been the simplest method. Instead, the femur, the largest bone in the human body, has been sawed nearly all the way through and then forcibly broken. Both legs were removed using the same technique. Tool mark analysis on the bone cuts reveals the legs were cut with a cross-cut saw. The method used across all of the dismemberment suggests someone with no practical knowledge of how to take apart a body, relying on brute force and equipment rather than skill. To determine when the body was placed in the woods, agents turned to entomology. Based on temperature data and insect growth patterns on the right leg, an entomologist at Georgia Southern University determines the body was deposited in the woods between November 27th and November 29th. This narrows the timeline significantly. The body had been placed there only days before it was discovered. But before agents can determine how the victim died or who may be responsible, they face a more basic problem. They don't know who she is. So identification becomes the first priority, and every available method is used. Fingerprinting via Rapid ID at the scene yields no matches against driver's license records. DNA entered into CODIS also returns no match. The case is entered into federal databases, including FBI's Violent Criminal Apprehension Program and the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System. Both systems are designed to connect unidentified bodies with missing persons reports across the country. Neither generates a match. When the head is recovered, X-rays reveal a dental implant on the upper right side. An orthodontist evaluates it, but the implant lacks a serial number and cannot be traced to a specific patient or provider. The condition of the head makes it impossible to release an image publicly. Instead, two composite sketches are created using a photograph of the victim's face taken during autopsy. The images are released publicly and distributed through law enforcement networks. Calls begin coming in across the country. Over 50 potential matches are investigated, but eventually every lead is ultimately ruled out. With traditional identification methods exhausted, agents turn to genetic genealogy. Using advanced DNA comparison techniques, analysts construct a family tree that ultimately leads to Mindi Mebane, a woman living in South Carolina. A direct DNA comparison confirms she is the victim's mother. In May 2023, nearly 6 months after the body was first discovered, the victim is finally identified as 40-year-old Mindi Mebane Kassotis. When GBI agents arrive in Savannah to deliver the news, Mindi Mebane is not surprised to learn that her daughter is dead. It's what they tell her next that shocks her, that Mindy's dismembered body was found in Liberty County, Georgia. She had been told that Mindy suffered a stroke during a complicated pregnancy and passed away on December 1st, 2022.
We were told that Mindy was pregnant, so...
Okay. And so it was your understanding that while she was last alive, she was pregnant?
Yes.
Did they give you an idea, and I say they, I mean, did your daughter specifically tell you when she was due?
She didn't specifically tell me. Mr. Kassotis told us.
When did he tell you she was due?
January 8th.
January 8th of 2023. Did they tell you, well, did he tell you whether it was a boy or a girl?
I believe he said it was a girl.
Did you ever go to the doctor with her?
No, I did not.
Do you know who her doctor was?
No.
Do you know what facility she was being seen at?
No.
Did Mr. Kassotis ever tell you any of that information? Meaning where?
About the doctors?
Yeah.
No.
Over Thanksgiving weekend, Betsy and Frank III had traveled to Hilton Head with their youngest son, leaving Mindy and Nick at the Savannah house.
Do you know, at that time when you left for Thanksgiving, how was Mindy feeling?
She'd been having some blood pressure problems, so...
Why did you believe she had blood pressure problems?
I believe that's what I was told.
Okay. Do you remember who told you that?
No, I don't.
So would it have been one of them, meaning
yes.
your daughter,
yes.
Mr. Kassotis? Okay. Were there any other people that ever told you about her medical conditions?
No.
Or her pregnancy?
No.
Just the two of them?
Yes.
When you returned from Hilton Head, did you see Mindy?
No.
Okay. Do you know where she went or was?
Well, we were told on Monday that Nick had taken her to the hospital because they were going to do some testing and try to work on her blood pressure. And so we were happy that she was actually, maybe they could figure out what was wrong with, her blood pressure and and get her feeling better.
Okay. Did he tell you what hospital he took her to?
It was supposed to be some type of military hospital on a base.
Okay. And did you go see her?
No, because we figured we probably wouldn't be allowed to because it was supposed to be on a base.
Okay. And who told you that it was on a military base?
Mr. Kassotis.
Okay. At that point, did he tell you who her doctor was?
No.
Did he give you any information specifically about what was going on at the military base or where it was?
No.
On November 30th, Frank III underwent hip surgery at St. Joseph's Calders Hospital and remained there overnight. He returned home around midday on December 1st. Since Frank could barely walk after surgery, Nick helped him inside the house. He told Betsy to go back to work and he would take care of Frank until she came back in the evening. But at some point during the day, Nicholas told Frank that he was going to the hospital to check in on Mindy.
Did you know where Mr. Kassotis was?
No, not really.
Did he eventually come home?
He did. He came home shortly after I got back.
Can you tell the jury what happened when he got home?
I heard him come in the door, so I came bouncing out and I was like, "Hey, how's Mindy doing?" And he just started bawling, crying hysterically and talking, and I really couldn't even understand much of what he said. So I said, "Please come out and sit in the living room, the den or whatever, and tell us what's wrong." And so that's when all I could really understand was she's not coming home.
Is that when he told you?
Yes.
And when he said she's not coming home, did you understand what he meant when he first said it?
No, not really. The way he was crying, I figured it was not good.
Okay.
So.
Did he eventually tell you she died?
Yes. And he did not know he didn't know exactly what had happened. He said he'd been texting her all morning and she didn't answer, so he thought she was sleeping. He told us that she was in her room and she needed to go to the bathroom, so the nurses unhooked her from all of her equipment and she went to the bathroom, and then the nurse got called away and she went back and got into bed and had a stroke, and there was no one there. She wasn't hooked up, so that's supposedly what happened to her.
But Mindy's parents never saw her body. No funeral or memorial service was ever held for her. They relied on what Nicholas told them, and they grieved their daughter and the grandchild they believed had died with her.
We talked about having a service or something after the first of the year, but with her being married to him, we thought that was his responsibility. We weren't going to say, "Hey, we want to take care of the body when she's married to him." So we thought he was going to handle it.
Did that ever happen?
No.
Then, investigators deliver another devastating revelation. The autopsy confirmed that Mindy was not pregnant at the time of her death.
You indicated at some point that you had tested and opened her body. Did you also happen to have an opportunity to examine her uterus?
Yes.
Did you determine if she was pregnant?
There's no evidence of pregnancy.
And if she had an estimated due date of January of 2023, and she was allegedly found on December 2nd of 2022, be fair to say that's very far along in the gestation period of a human being?
Yes.
Would you expect to find a fetus at that point?
Yes.
And did you find anything that would be indicative of the fact that she was pregnant at the time of her death?
No.
Then Betsy says something that surprises detectives. She tells them Nick is dead too.
In February, we were notified by his security team that he had been in a car accident and wasn't in very good shape. And we asked if we would be allowed to come and see him.
Were you allowed to?
No.
Ultimately, was that communication over the phone, in person?
That was an email communication.
Was there any follow-up communication from the security team concerning his condition?
Yes, I believe it was several weeks later we were told that unfortunately he had died.
And at that point, did you believe that Mr. Kassotis had passed away and died?
I absolutely did. So we were already grieving for Mindy, and then we were grieving for him. So.
But by the time agents sat in Betsy's living room, they already knew that was not true. After Mindy was identified, investigators ran Nicholas Kassotis through state and federal databases. They discovered that in late December 2022, he had filed a legal petition in Missouri to change his name to Nicholas Killian James Stark. He updated his Social Security information, obtained a new driver's license, and relocated to Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. By April 2023, approximately 4 months after publicly announcing Mindy's death, Kassotis had remarried. When investigators tell Betsy that Nick is very much alive, she is stunned.
Did you believe him at the time?
Yes, I did.
How does that make you feel in hindsight?
Stupid, naive, trusting.
Did you trust him?
Yes, we did.
With that revelation, every detail of Nick's account collapses, and all eyes turn to him. To understand what happened to Mindy, detectives first need to understand the life she'd built and the man she'd built it with. Mindi Mebane Kassotis was the eldest of 3 children, with 2 younger brothers, Frank IV and Matthew. She was raised in a close-knit family and shared a strong bond with her parents, Betsy and Frank III. Within the family, she was known as protective and deeply connected to her siblings. Those who knew Mindy described her as kind-hearted and dependable, someone who formed lasting bonds and left a strong impression on the people around her. In 2014, Mindy met Nicholas Kassotis on the dating website OkCupid. On paper, he appeared stable, accomplished, and well-positioned, and the connection quickly drew her in. After attending college at Boston University, Nicholas Kassotis earned a law degree from Northeastern University School of Law. He later joined the U.S. Navy as a Judge Advocate General Officer. He was stationed at the Navy Legal Service Office in Newport, Rhode Island, where his colleagues described him as kind and helpful. As a JAG officer, Kassotis prosecuted cases across multiple regions worldwide. After leaving active duty service, Kassotis obtained a position at the Pentagon, working in administrative and international law. In September 2000, Kassotis married his first wife, Heather Bassett, but things didn't work out, and their divorce was finalized in October 2015. Shortly after the divorce, he met Mindi Mebane. Within weeks, they could envision a future together. Just over a year after their first date, they got married on October 9, 2016. Nick eventually left active military service, but remained connected to the Department of the Navy in a civilian role. With more time available, he began writing horror fiction online. Using the pen names Nick Moorfox and NM Writes, he became an active member of the No Sleep subreddit, a community where writers can share scary stories. On the surface, the Kassotis household appeared stable. Beneath that, however, the structure of their life was beginning to change.
Did there come a time when something occurred to make you believe that there was a change in their marriage condition?
Yes, when they actually were sort of hiding out, we were told they feared for their lives.
Who told you that?
Mindy and Nick.
And when did this first start happening to your recollection?
I would say maybe late 2018 or early 2019 would be my best. That's sort of a best guess.
Nick claimed that because of a project he'd worked on while at the Pentagon, he and Mindy had become targets.
Was Mindy working at the time?
No, she was not.
Okay. Do you know why she was not working?
Well, one basic reason was she was scared to death to leave the house, so...
Tell us what you mean by that.
Well, there was supposed to be people after them. They supposedly had security, and she was truly fearful for her life.
Did you believe that?
Yes.
And when you said that she was fearful for her life, did you ever see the security team that they referred to?
No, I did not.
Did you ever speak to anyone from a security team?
Only by email.
At some point, there were email communications?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you believe that was the security team?
I did.
They were told by their security team to relocate frequently, trust no one, and follow strict instructions for their safety.
Did you have a good relationship with your daughter?
Yes.
Do you think you knew her pretty well?
Yes, I do.
Would you have considered her gullible?
No.
So when she told you she was afraid, did you believe her?
Absolutely.
Okay. And did her behavior seem to be consistent with that?
Yes, very much so.
Did you believe Mr. Kassotis when he advised you that they were in danger?
Yes.
At that point in the investigation, Nicholas Kassotis became a person of interest. On May 12, 2023, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation secures a felony arrest warrant charging Kassotis with malice murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, concealment of a death, and related offenses. That same afternoon, Lancaster County authorities apprehended him at his residence. He does not resist arrest and is booked into Lancaster County Prison. On May 13, 2023, agents from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation and the Liberty County Sheriff's Office fly to Lancaster to conduct a formal interview with him. For over 2 hours, Nick recounts the narrative he had constructed over years, delivered with the confidence of a man used to writing fiction. It began around 2017 with a series of alarming incidents.
In 2017, we were discussing my upcoming departure from active duty. We were discussing, starting a family, several things. And Mindy was very actively watching all of our spending because she wanted to make sure that we were in the best position financially. And she started noticing odd deductions from our accounts that weren't tied to anything that we were doing. Sometimes they seemed to be, the ones she showed me were, they didn't even have transaction numbers. It would just say something like payment and, hundreds of dollars would go missing. At the time, we thought it was an error with our bank. We were banking with USAA at the time and thought that this was some sort of a bank error that would be easily resolved. Sometime in late 2017, we'd seen kind of a brief reprieve where we thought that things had, our bank had fixed the issues, that things were no longer going wrong. And suddenly it kind of restarted with a lot more than it had before. And we also started seeing vandalism at our house. I would sometimes get anonymous emails stating, that I was going to be hurt or killed. Our mail would go missing. Things of that nature.
Nick and Mindy grow increasingly frightened. They cannot identify who is targeting them or why. Worried, they report the incidents to the FBI, submitting a complaint through the Bureau's online tip form. They also reach out to a friend of Nick's who works for the FBI, hoping he can help them understand whether the threat is real and what they should do next. One day, a man identifying himself as FBI agent Jim McIntyre shows up at their door. Given the timing, his appearance does not strike them as suspicious. It feels like a response.
I got a call at work and Mindy said that an FBI agent had come to the house. I asked her what they had talked about. She said that he was there in regards to what had been happening to us, that he would be returning in the near future. Mindy believed that she had seen a badge, or she told me at the time that she'd seen a badge. I had no reason to doubt that he was who he said he was. It didn't cross my mind that somebody else could have shown up at my house at that time.
After several months of analysis, McIntyre told the couple they were being targeted by an overseas network of cybercriminals. He instructed them to communicate only through Signal and Proton Mail, to move constantly, and to sever ties with anyone who could compromise their safety. Over time, McIntyre's role expanded far beyond an investigator. He arranged employment for Nick at a company called Apis Limited and also helped set up a trust fund for them.
There was a large sale or licensing agreement that was completed at some point. I wasn't getting paid by this company. I was paid only in stock options. And I was told that this large sum of money was being given to me. So during that time, he said he set up a trust. He showed us extensive documentation where it would be invested and care would be taken of it. And it wouldn't be anything that we could touch or until it was safe to do so. And also it would be, thankfully, something that nobody else could touch because of that same reason.
McIntyre also claimed to have identified the people behind the harassment.
At that time, he had told me that I was being targeted by members of my family, most specifically my father, Wayne Kassotis. At the time, he said he assumed it was financial because of this large amount of money that we had received.
McIntyre also told Nick that Wayne was not his biological father. He had Nick take a DNA test, the results of which proved that. On the basis of this claim, Nick severed ties with his parents completely. At McIntyre's direction, the couple abandoned their home and began moving from rental to rental. Over approximately 3 years, they relocated more than 50 times.
Because he said that if we stayed in one place too long, that we might be found, that it was dangerous. We never knew when we would move. We never knew when we would move out. Sometimes we would be in a place for 6 or 7 weeks. Those were rare but wonderful. And sometimes it would be every 2 or 3 days. Sometimes with literally an hour to pack. He would say, you have to be out of the house in an hour. This is where you're going. This is the code to get in. Pack your things.
However, after years of uprooting their lives, draining their finances, and severing ties with everyone they loved on McIntyre's instructions, Nick claimed that McIntyre dropped a bombshell. He was not an FBI agent.
We learned that Mr. McIntyre was not a federal agent. I had a conversation with him as to why this was, why he was charging a friend of mine's card. Why wasn't there, either coming from our own money or some sort of official fund, why this was happening. And I made some reference to wanting to speak to his superior, and he said, Nick, I'm not an FBI agent. Why would you think of that? I said, this is, we shouldn't be dealing with this anymore. Like we've got to figure out a plan. We've got to, cut ties with Jim. Like I feel like I've been lied to for years. Mindy felt that Jim was our angel. She said, he'd made mistakes, but we would be in the position to fix all those mistakes. And if we stopped working together, then who knows, if his resolve to see this end in our favor was going to go away.
Instead, McIntyre told Nick he was the majority investor in Apis Limited. He claimed to still have extensive connections with the FBI and continued to arrange calls with people he described as federal investigators. Nick's account then shifts to the pregnancy. In May 2022, Mindy tested positive. A doctor Mindy had found supposedly began making house calls to the 65th Street house, arriving with a doctor's bag and visiting roughly a dozen times over 5 months. With the help of this doctor, Mindy also identified a birthing center where she planned to deliver. But when detectives ask for specifics, Nick can neither name the doctor nor the birthing center. Detectives notice a pattern taking shape. In Nick's telling, it's always Mindy who asks, Mindy who instructs, and Mindy who decides. She found the doctor. She wanted the birthing center. She told him to fill out the paperwork. At every turn, the person driving the decisions is the one person who can no longer speak for herself. Nick's account then turns to Mindy's final days. For detectives, this is the critical part. Every claim he makes from this point forward has to align with the evidence they are already in the process of collecting. If his version holds, the evidence will support it. If it doesn't, this is where it falls apart. During Thanksgiving weekend, Nick claims that he was out of the house looking for an apartment for Frank III and Betsy. While he was out, Mindy messaged him.
I got a message from her that she was leaving the home, that she was concerned and she was going to get medical attention. I asked her if she thought I should come back, and she said that she didn't need, that she was going to be picked up and that she was all right. We had discussed it in prior days that she was going to be taken to a birthing center, that a doctor that, or the man I believed to be a doctor who had been seeing her in the home, worked at or was affiliated with in some way. Mr. McIntyre was comfortable with that because we were very scared about the medical issues, with insurance, with payments, with our location being found.
Over the next few days, Nick continued communicating with Mindy through Signal.
I was told on, I believe Sunday, that I should be preparing to leave again. I was told to pack just the things that we would need just for a couple of days, and that we might be leaving very, very quickly in the future.
On November 29th, 2022, Nick received instructions from McIntyre to drive the totes south toward Liberty County and hand them off to someone he had never met. He was told to switch off his phone so the trip couldn't be tracked.
This was on Tuesday. I believe Monday or Tuesday. I believe it was Tuesday, based on the other things. And I had been told to bring the two bins that we had to a house. I assumed it was somebody who worked at this birthing center or somebody Jim was familiar with. So I brought them down. I met with a gentleman and delivered them to him. I don't know his name. I was just directed to go to him to deliver this. I was given an address of a church that I was told to use as a waypoint, and then I was given GPS coordinates from there.
When he pulled up outside the house, an unfamiliar man was waiting. Nick handed him the two totes and asked him if anything else was needed, and was told no. No names were exchanged. He never went inside. Then comes Mindy's death, as Nick tells it.
I got messages Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday that I thought were from her. Everything seemed positive. And Thursday said I received a phone call and was told she'll be ready to pick up this afternoon. I'd sent her a few messages that hadn't heard back. I assumed she was either napping or undergoing some sort of test that she didn't have her phone with her. But that evening, Thursday, December 1st, I was told that she had died.
He signed paperwork releasing her remains, but no copies were given to him. Shortly afterward, someone contacted him to say that Mindy's body had been mistakenly cremated by the facility. Nick then began arranging to collect her ashes.
I received a phone call from a gentleman who said that, I had to arrange to pick them up, and we were discussing where we would both be, and he said that he could meet me in Montgomery, Alabama. He gave me a bag that he said contained Mindy's ashes. It also contained her engagement ring and her wedding ring. I gave him $5,000 in cash that I withdrew that morning from the Renaissance Bank in Montgomery, Alabama.
He then drove alone to Havre de Grace, Maryland, at the head of the Chesapeake Bay.
The Chesapeake Bay was a place that Mindy loved, that she talked about all the time. And I scattered her ashes there, and I took her engagement ring and her wedding band and my wedding band and kind of tied them together with a twist, and I put them in the water as well.
Nick also accounts for the missing evidence. After Mindy's death, an unknown person broke into his car and stole a backpack containing 2 laptops and a cell phone, devices that held years of critical electronic evidence, according to him. Several months later, in March 2023, the green Ford Explorer caught fire.
I was making a turn onto another road, and the car was kind of fighting me a little. Like it was taking more force to turn than I thought it would. I continued down the road and was smelling something odd, and I stopped. At that point, I realized that there was smoke in the interior of the car. I got out, crossed around to the passenger side to get my phone out, and opened the door, and the fire kind of just came right up at me. It was the car went up extremely fast.
Every part of Nick's story conveniently removes the ability to verify it. There's no facility that can be checked, no doctor who can be questioned, no names that can be confirmed, and no car that can be tested. Detectives have listened to every word. Now they need to verify it. When detectives contact medical facilities across the greater Savannah area, they find nothing. There's no record of Mindy being hospitalized in late November. They can't find her death certificate either. Every coroner's office in Chatham County and the surrounding area comes back empty. No autopsy was ever performed on someone named Mindi Kassotis. The pregnancy claims also crumble under scrutiny, with investigators uncovering no records of prenatal visits, ultrasounds, OB/GYN appointments, or CVS pharmacy payments. Investigators also try to locate the FBI report Nick claimed he filed in 2018, but they cannot find any record of it. They also find no verifiable records supporting Apis Limited as a real employer. With Nick's account in ruins, detectives turn their attention to 311 East 65th Street in Savannah, where Mindy and Nicholas Kassotis had been living during the critical late November window. Agents contact the homeowner and obtain written consent to search the residence from her. She also shares something that catches their attention. When she inspected the house after Nick left in December 2022, the large, colorful rug in the living room was gone. In its place was a smaller, cheaper rug in a vaguely similar pattern. The house had also been left unusually clean, cleaner than it had ever been after any previous tenant. There was no strong smell of bleach and no odor of cleaning chemicals. The front door lock, however, was completely broken. When agents arrive at the property, they do not rely solely on visible inspection. Using Blue Star, a luminol-type chemical reagent that reveals traces of blood invisible to the eye, they plan to test every surface in the house. But first, it has to be prepared.
So one of the things, again, that we had to do to prepare to even spray the chemical was to go around and cover all the doors and windows with black plastic. We unplugged microwaves and taped over LED lights and things and made sure that the residence was as dark as we could get it. And moved all of our camera equipment inside and then began searching the house using Blue Star to look for stains that could potentially be blood.
Once the house is dark, agents begin spraying ceilings, walls, and floors in every room. The most significant reaction occurs on a blue futon in the den area. When the lights are switched on, a reddish-brown stain is observed in the upper rear portion of the futon in a location consistent with where a person's head would rest. The stain has soaked through the outer cover and into the padding beneath. Field testing confirms the presence of blood, and further testing identifies it as human blood. DNA analysis later determines that the major DNA profile matches Mindi Mebane Kassotis. A second, low-level DNA profile is also detected, but it's too partial to allow for identification. The wall above the futon also tells a story.
So on the wall above, where the futon back was located, there was an arc-shaped stain on the wall. It was extremely faint. It was very, very hard to see. You had to be almost on top of it, even with naked eye, to see it. Considering that the blue star returned a positive result, and then we were able to test that later on at laboratory. There's a possibility that it could have been cleaned up.
The replacement rug showed no reaction as expected, but what they found underneath the rug changes everything.
We sprayed the rug and we didn't get a reaction from it. So in order to check underneath it, we moved it and then sprayed again. And that's when we found the stains on the floor. And this blood was not visible to the naked eye at all. In the center of the screen, there's the brightest reaction. You see how it tails off to the right, to the bottom of the photograph. That, in my opinion, appears to be a wipe. A wipe is where we have blood that's been deposited on a surface and then something moves through it. So what we can tell from this is there was a bloodletting event that occurred in this home at some point, and then it appears that it's been wiped through.
Agents also searched the backyard shed, which contains power tools, including a circular saw. All tools are brought inside and tested with Blue Star, but no positive reaction for blood is detected. The connection between Nick and the crime scene tools begins with an investigator's instinct.
We looked at the evidence that we had. I knew from just personal experience shopping and from a previous case dealing with Home Depot loss prevention, Milwaukee brand and Husky brand were ones that were sold at those stores. So I had the SKU number was still on the Husky box. So I took that SKU and a picture of the knife and sent it to loss prevention for Home Depot and requested any purchases in the area of the last couple of months of the combination of those two items with other items or just with that items individually.
The records come back with Nick's name, a date of November 29, 2022, and surveillance footage showing him walking out of a Savannah store with a knife under his arm. On November 4, 2022, surveillance had captured Nick at Home Depot, where he bought a digging shovel and a fiberglass hammer. Then, on November 29, 2022, at 8:56 a.m., Kassotis returned to Home Depot and purchased a Milwaukee utility knife. Surveillance footage captured him inside the store. The receipt reflected his name, confirming he personally made the purchase. Also purchased at Home Depot were large plastic storage totes, though detectives can't track the exact date they were bought. Separately, agents discovered that Nick had purchased a 7-piece Pursuit deer processing kit from a Bass Pro Shops location on November 28th, but the kit itself was never recovered. They purchased an identical kit from the same store and submit it for comparison. The saw from the kit is consistent with the bone cuts but cannot be positively confirmed as the tool used. When laid out in order, the purchases tell a story. To detectives, this is not a coincidence. It's preparation. Nick had assembled everything he needed. Now agents had to prove he used it, and a camera he never noticed was the first thing that placed him there. An external security camera on a water pump station operated by the city of Riceboro, situated just down the road from where hunters found the torso, captured a Ford Explorer on November 29, 2022. It had recorded the vehicle driving past the station around noon, then again a short time later heading in the opposite direction. The vehicle matched the make and model registered to Nick Kassotis. To build a complete picture of Nick's movements, specialists analyzed the digital trail left behind by the Ford Explorer's built-in AT&T cellular modem, Nick's T-Mobile phone, Nick's Verizon phone, and Mindy's AT&T phone. The analysis produces one immediately significant finding. Mindy's phone had zero mappable activity during the entire period analyzed. Nick's Verizon phone was equally silent. However, the T-Mobile phone and the Explorer's telematics tell a different story. On November 28th, both devices pinged near a Bass Pro Shops at 1:23 p.m., matching the receipt for the deer processing kit. The following morning, both appeared near the Home Depot on East Victory Drive at 8:56 a.m., matching the Milwaukee knife purchase. After leaving Home Depot, the phone and the car travel south on Interstate 95, connecting to cell towers along the route. By 10:21 a.m., the car's modem connects to a tower that covers the Riceboro and Portal Hunting Club area, including the places where Mindy's remains are later found. The vehicle stayed on that tower until 11:54 a.m. The pumping station camera captured the Ford Explorer on the dirt during this same window. Then, at 10:15 a.m., Nick's phone went dark until 12:03 p.m. No data sessions were recorded during this 2-hour window. But the car kept talking. The Ford Explorer's built-in modem continued transmitting throughout, placing the vehicle squarely in the area of the dump sites. Nick had turned his phone off, believing that made him invisible. He did not know the car would betray him. When the phone reappeared at 12:03 p.m., the vehicle was heading back north. By 2:03 p.m., it was back in the vicinity of the 65th Street residence. The evidence had told detectives where Nick went, what he bought, and how long he stayed. Now they needed to hear him try to explain it. On May 25th, Nicholas Kassotis is extradited back to Georgia and booked into the Liberty County Jail. The same day, he is brought in for questioning. Before disclosing the evidence they have, the detectives allow him to commit to a version of events. They let him talk long enough to build the structure, because the structure is what will be tested.
Tell me about the day that you got called to the doctor's office. Who called you?
I don't know. Somebody. I got a phone call. I forget from who. I don't know if it was somebody I knew or not, asking if I could. I don't think it was somebody I knew. Asking if I could come and pick her up that afternoon. I think around 3, but I'm not exactly sure.
So, would the doctor's office be in the Savannah area?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely in the Savannah area.
Okay. And would we say Savannah or Savannah area?
I don't know the difference, sir.
Okay. But somewhere near Savannah. So, if we were at the house you were residing at, how far would you say would be the longest range for that doctor's office?
25 minutes.
Okay. So, once you arrived, what happened?
I pulled in, there was a spot, and there was a man, I could see a man standing behind the door. It was a glass door. And as I stopped, he opened the door.
Okay.
He came out and gestured towards me.
Then what?
I walked in.
Then what?
He sat me down. I assumed I was going to get some sort of instructions, like she can do this, she can't do that. I sat down and he said that he was very sad to tell me that Mindi passed away suddenly.
Okay. But he wasn't the doctor.
I assumed he was the doctor. I was extremely upset. I thought I was coming there just to pick her up and bring her back. He said he wasn't sure what had happened, that they were gonna find out. Because I asked what happened. He said he wasn't sure. They weren't sure what happened. Whatever it was, it happened very suddenly. And he said that they were gonna find out. He said he had some forms for me to allow all that to happen. To allow them to do it, and then something about her, what to do with her afterwards.
Before you left, did they let you go back and see her?
They did not.
You didn't ask to see her?
I asked if I could see her, and he said not right now. I thought it was because of the autopsy or something. I assumed I would get a chance to see her multiple times, and I never did.
Did you get any copies of this paperwork or keep this paperwork?
No, I signed it. I was extremely upset. I didn't know what to do. I went straight back to her parents and told them.
Most people remember where their spouse died and who delivered the news. Nick cannot provide either. Detectives have had enough. They let him build his story piece by piece. Now they are going to take it apart the same way.
Did you know that your car has a phone?
No, my car has a phone.
Okay. Your phone, your car's phone, the videos. I mean, who else has a look at going on a 25,000 acre property and get captured on video? The 45 minutes that you spent there at one location with the tubs and tonight, your DNA.
Sir, I did not hurt my wife.
No. Did you dispose of it?
No, sir.
You did.
No, sir.
And all evidence is showing that.
Sir,
And your elaborate 2 hours of story that you gave in Pennsylvania, you know how many items you, being an attorney, you should realize how many of those can be disproven.
Sir, I have not lied to you at all.
You've been living the web of lies for a long time.
No, sir.
Especially your finances, from Jim McIntyre, all these people, the Microsoft stuff.
I think Jim has lied to me for a long time. I do believe that.
I don't believe Jim exists.
Sir, Jim absolutely exists. I don't know if that's his real name, but he absolutely exists.
Yeah, Jim was so good at his job of protecting you. Why would he not protect her? Why would he not come forward with any evidence now?
I think Jim lied to me about a million things.
Why would he not prevent your father from being able to find you?
I don't know. But I don't think Jim was telling me the truth about anything.
Because he did exist.
He did exist, sir.
It's a stalemate Nick cannot win. He needs Jim McIntyre to be real, but he has nothing to prove it. The detectives shift their focus to the medical claims he made about his wife.
She was pregnant.
Even the times that y'all were saying that she was pregnant, she was not pregnant. She was not pregnant at the time of her death.
Sir, she was.
She was not. That's a medical certainty. She was not pregnant. The doctors that you're saying that she went to, that just you don't know their names, don't know the location, you never mentioned an actual doctor that she saw for a thyroid problem. You never mentioned doctors that you visited.
I don't know the last. I do know the last time I visited a doctor, sir. I visited one probably 4 or 5.
What about the CVS pickups for medication?
Yeah, I would routinely pick up her medication there.
Just been prescribed by a doctor?
Yes.
That's not the doctor you would take her to or that would know about her death?
No, those were medication refills. We did like a telehealth thing.
More stories. I mean, just kind of elaborate stories to exist. But the point is,
so you
killed Mindy.
You can look at the CVS.
Why did you kill Mindy?
Sir, I didn't kill Mindy.
You killed Mindy.
I did not.
All the evidence shows that you killed Mindy, and will continue to show. It's kind of like a 1,000-piece puzzle. You burned some of the pieces. You've thrown some of the pieces away. We'll never have all the pieces. It's very clear. You made that absolutely sure we won't have the pieces. But we've got enough to see a very clear picture and to show that picture to a jury. And that jury is going to conclude one thing, the same thing I'm telling you. You killed Mindy. No doubt.
When you placed her body out there, you did us some favors. Where you placed it, it preserved some things. You weren't expecting her to be found so quickly.
Sir, I never saw her after she died. I never hurt Mindy.
You did hurt me.
Are you alleging that Jim killed your wife?
I don't know, but I think it's possible.
Okay. So, and the doctors conspired, they created this fake doctor facility of a name that you don't even know, a location you don't even know.
Side of the road pickup
For you to see your wife, just so happens your phone, even your car, showed clearly where you were at. down this long dirt road that just happened to pass a camera and tracks your every movement. To stop at the Marathon store off the interstate where you swiped your car. All those records, purchasing the knife to go do mosquito work. And remember,
Yes, sir. You can find
that exact knife 2 hours later ends up.
Sir, I told you where that knife is.
That knife's not there. I know exactly where that knife is.
Sir, I told you that knife is in the back of
So could you be like,
Exactly.
it was found out there with the black toe.
So you can continue with the web of lies in the story. There's always reason for things. Is your reason that you're just a vicious killer and decided to kill your wife, or did y'all get in some kind of argument? What was your motive for killing her?
I never.
The story is not what you're telling. Why is it so different?
What do you mean, sir?
Your elaborate story of on the run all this time and all the periods of stuff and the web of lies, why is it so different than what happened with her? The record shows, the evidence shows, the DNA shows. Why is all that? Is you're being set up, is what you're saying?
I don't know, sir. I don't know.
So your phone and your own person that you said was turned off.
Yes, sir.
Still goes to those containers on a property that's 25,000 acres down a dirt road, 40 minutes from the house in Savannah, that matches the GPS, all the stuff matches. That knife that you purchased at Home Depot ends up there as well. The cleaning, the purchasing, the credit card swipes, the story that continued, the lies that you told to many others. Some people who you think are still on your side are actually some of the best witnesses against you. They know the story, and they're going to tell that story when they testify.
The Capital One card you're using for all these years, getting food, takeout, lodging, paying for all the places, the Airbnbs, the Verbos you stayed at, we have all those records.
Yes, sir.
And the Renaissance, the current setup.
Yes, sir.
So you're saying this big, everybody's created all these records of items that were on your person on that same very day, in the same very vehicle you were driving, at that location. You know what the coincidences of that were, and the chances or probabilities of that happening?
It's the first time Nick has pointed a finger at anyone, but blaming a man no one can find only deepens the hole he's in. The detectives do not pursue it. They move on to the evidence that ties Nick directly to the woods.
The day that you bought the knife and traveled down the road, where did you go?
I left. I stopped for gas. I stopped at Home Depot. I believe I stopped and talked to Jim.
With Mindy's money in the car.
No, sir. No, sir.
The 40 minutes that you were there, there's no house at that 40 minutes that you stopped at. So we can cut the house out if you'd like.
And it wasn't your personal property that was in those containers, it was Mindy.
No, sir. I packed this case myself. It's her laptop.
You did pack on yourself. If your wife's dismembered body,
Sir, that's not true.
that is true. And you had it in your car when you drove down that dirt road.
Sir, that's not true.
That is what you placed in the dirt, 30 or 40 feet off the roadway.
Sir, that is not true.
That is absolutely true, Nick.
Exactly what the record showed.
Sir, that's not what happened.
I don't know what you know about the country and dirt roads and the property that you own, that you've ever been to that type of property before. But you happen to hit the security cameras on the entrance to 25,000 acres, which is a very large property. Your phone, in your vehicle's phone, everything, every stop is recorded. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
He says
So your 40 minutes that you're there, you're at the exact same spot where your wife's torso was found. The other stop where you dug with the shovel
And hit roots.
and hit roots. That's recorded on the very same information. The next spot that you stopped and buried her skull is covered. The exact same stuff. Even the next spot with the leg is covered. So the stops are, I mean, it's like what's on TV. It's not, there's no issues here. It's very clear. So the big question is, big question is even the pictures. There's pictures of them going by on a property. You may have seen the log truck ahead of you. There's a big truck hauling wood. Guys that spotted you down there. The big question is why. It's no longer if. So the big question is why.
Sir, I've never heard anything from her.
You never carried her to the doctor. She never went to the doctor. You never went to the doctor.
The doctor didn't come by your house to do those checks.
Yes, you came directly from that house to that location. It's very clear. From your house to Home Depot to the scene. To multiple scenes, I guess we would say. Those stops are recorded, captured by your car. They're actually corroborated by your cell phone. That you say is turned off. But apparently your particular phone still records and still sends out pings or messages that overlap with that. So the big question is, were you asked to go to a location and retrieve Mindy's body? Or did you kill her and transport her? Or did something happen in that house that you just can't talk about and then you dealt with it from there? Because it clearly had started at that house. Then it went on.
Sir, no, none of this happened.
The interrogation continues, but the pattern does not change. Each time detectives present evidence, Nick denies it. Each time they press for an explanation, he has none. Eventually, they give him one last chance.
You continue to lie, you lied from the beginning, and you continue to lie to even. And that's where we're at. You understand that? So this is your opportunity here now to say what happened in that room. At that house. With her. With Mindy.
Sir, nothing happened.
That's it.
Fine, sir. You really don't look right? And that's a good on this. Sir, I never heard anything.
They love you.
Sir, I love him.
Do you love Mindy?
Yes, sir.
Because the evidence shows that whoever did that to her really loved her and went into a rage.
Sir, I never heard anything.
You did.
Sir, yes, sir.
The interview ends without a confession, but detectives have what they came for. Over the next 2 years, prosecutors pieced together the case. The cell tower data, the store receipts, the surveillance footage, the DNA on the futon, and the blood beneath the floorboards. All of it is laid before a jury. But in the end, it is the Jim McIntyre story that does the most damage. Nick had built his entire defense around a man no one could find, no one had met, and no databases had ever recorded. Every claim he made ran through McIntyre, and when McIntyre collapsed, everything collapsed with him. On August 14, 2025, Nick Kassotis is found guilty of all charges and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.